Hey, everybody. Welcome to our Wednesday night chats. I'm excited to have you guys here with me tonight. If you are not seeing this live, if you are watching on the replay, drop me a quick note, say hashtag replay. I'm gonna just quick Valor up. I can get my Valor to come out. Breathing in all good and deep. Get us started for the night. So Valor is one of my favorites to use, especially right before I know I'm going to be talking. I talk for a living. So most people think that what I do comes, naturally. I do think that there is a part of me that is a little bit natural, but I still get the jitters before talking. So I always like to Valor up just to give me that extra little bit of calm. All right, so tonight we are talking about hormones and essential oils and some of the Young Living products that we offer to help balance those. I am going to use a little bit of notes here, so bear with me, excuse me, as I go through this. I have a picture that I want to show you. So I've got my little book here. I want to make sure that that I stay on task. So we are going to jump right in and start talking about hormones. So I think that this is probably one of the more difficult topics to discuss as an essential oiler, mainly because when people talk about having their wow moment or their conversion moment with oils, it usually doesn't happen if you are treating your hormones, which is, not to say that like the supplements and the oils aren't doing anything for you. They are. Hormones are just really complex, and they're literally impacted by tens of thousands of things every single day. Your stress, medications that you might be on, your diet is a huge thing. If you missed my gut talk, go back and watch that video. We talk a lot about nutrient deficient diets. Synthetic hormones. So if you're on any type of a hormone replacement, of course, toxins and chemicals in the environment. Soy is a huge thing. So they fluctuate based off of a lot of different things. So there's no like magic bullet or magic pill that you can take for your hormones. So tonight, the goal is really just to talk about like what are our hormones, what can throw them off kilter, and then what supplements or oils do you have that can help support. Again, this is not intended to diagnose or treat. It's just simply some suggestions for you that could potentially help you get things back on track and get your systems working the way that God intended them. But like I said, there's a lot of different facets. Each gland is bombarded every single day. So we're going to try to cross a few things off the list, but I would certainly check with a doctor if you are having some of these symptoms. Okay, so we're going to jump right in. I want to talk about what are hormones. So hormones are the messengers in your body. They regulate your metabolism. They regulate growth, development, especially as you're going through puberty, tissue function, sexual function, reproduction, sleep, mood, all of these responsibilities. And then they also contribute to a plethora of issues when they get out of whack. So some of those might present themselves as migraines, insomnia, weight gain, hot flashes, mood swings, infertility, how we handle stress, low libido. All of that are signs that our hormones are out of whack. Over time, if our hormones remain out of balance, it can really lead to a rapid aging process, and it also gives us an increase of risk of disease. So it can be pretty serious, and it's something that that you definitely want to keep an eye on. Because your hormones regulate and affect every single cell in your body, they are one of the most important things to keep in check. They tell us when we're tired and when we should go to sleep. They tell us when we're full and when we should stop eating. They really do dictate how we handle different emotions like joy and fear and overall stress. They'll tell us when our cells need to be replaced. They'll, tell our cells to just, fade away. So knowing how your hormones work and what you can do to keep them healthy it's an enormous task. Trust me. The whole reason that I got into essential oils almost 5 years ago was for exactly this. I knew my hormones were out of whack, and I wanted the extra support with the goal, with the intention of conceiving. It's been almost 5 years. I have been working on myself and working on my body for that long. And I find new information all the time. Even just recently have I finally started to acknowledge the impact of my diet and my gut, and really where my hormones are being made are in my gut. So there's so much information out there, and I feel like you have to be ready to hear that information in order to really accept it. So that's just where I'm at. And now that I'm there, I feel empowered and called to continue sharing this information with you all. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the different glands that are in your body, okay? So your endocrine system, which is the chemical messenger system, it consists of all of your glands that make up your body's hormones, or like that actually produce your body's hormones. So those are your thyroid, which I think most of us have heard of that, your parathyroid, your adrenals, I think everybody's familiar with the adrenal glands, your pancreas, your ovaries, and for men, of course, the testes. All of your hormones, or the hormones that are produced in these glands, regulate how other organs in your body are going to operate. These messengers are made by the glands and then are secreted directly into the circulatory system, so that way your balance is maintained. It's impacted by the hypothalamus, which is known as your neural control center, which also then sends hormones to your liver. Okay, so these are all things that get impacted when your hormones are out of whack as well. The hypothalamus, it's an area kind of deep inside of your brain, and it will receive chemical systems through the blood and then electrical systems from the nervous system that really keep it in the know with what your body is needing right then and there. It's essentially the regulator of the entire endocrine system. Endocrine, however you want to say it. It keeps track of all of your blood concentrations of your hormones. It keeps track of your emotional thoughts. So it's a really, really important gland. The hypothalamus, it will actually give orders to your pituitary gland. So it's kind of head honcho, which in turn then releases hormones that would signal other glands downstream. So if you want to talk about a phone tree, whenever, something's happening at church and we say, okay, start the phone tree, there's always somebody at the top and it passes its way down. That's exactly what your hypothalamus is doing to all of your hormone glands. It will even tell your kidneys to control your water retention. And it'll tell your adrenal glands that they need to produce more hormones for energy. It can help you determine like when you need to sleep. So it has a lot of control over a lot of things. And if this gland doesn't function, none of the others will either. So if your hypothalamus is out of whack, like everything is out of whack, and you've really got to start there. Your pituitary gland, it also, if that is damaged, can then lead to some pretty major things like high blood pressure, lactation problems, water and temperature regulation, poor memory, adrenal insufficiency, weight problems, really a whole like gamut of things. Young Living does have a supplement that likes to love on your pituitary gland. It's called a Megagize. You can also put a drop of lavender vitality and a drop of frankincense vitality on the roof of your mouth 4 to 5 times a day. That will help with your pituitary gland. The other gland that you have in your body is your thyroid gland. So we all know what the thyroid is. The thyroid gland works under the direction of the pituitary gland. So again, kind of next in the phone tree. And it creates hormones that will boost your metabolism for every single cell in your body. So if your metabolism is off, it's usually because your thyroid is off. It can also help trigger how hungry you are. And if it's underperforming, typically people have noted that they have extreme fatigue. If it's overactive, you might have things like weight gain, coarse dry hair, cold intolerance, muscle cramps, memory loss, just to name a few. There's a lot of things that you can experience as side effects for the thyroid. Okay. Endoflex is an essential oil. It's wonderful to put on your throat, and that will help to support your thyroid. We also do have a supplement that's called Thyromin, that supports your thyroid. That one is important to take between 9 and 11 p.m. Just so that way, as it's absorbed into your body then uses those nutrients at the right time. When you're up and you're active and things are moving, it's not usually the best time for your body to absorb that. So it's good to take it at night so that your body can process it and then absorb it while you're sleeping. Last gland then that we have is the adrenal gland. So I think the adrenal glands are really the most famous glands in the endocrine system because they are connected to our energy levels. So they are really kind of like the nitro of your human body. When you think about like nitro gas, especially in a car, you give it, like, anybody seen Fast and the Furious, you push the little button and the nitro kicks in and it's like, boom. That's your adrenal glands when you get that burst of energy. So I think it's important we spend just an extra minute talking about your adrenals because I want to just give you some quick reflexology tips that you can use on your feet to help relieve stress, take some of the pressure off of your adrenal glands, and then give yourself a really good energy boost. So let me find my picture here too, because I'm going to need to be able to show you that. The adrenal glands make many, many hormones, which give the body energy. And then they'll help us to control functions like our blood pressure or even just how we sweat. They also produce a hormone called cortisol. It's a stress hormone. And if your body has too little cortisol, even really minor things or minor stress can feel really overwhelming to you. So, obviously lots of stress, you would be like completely wiped out, but even minor stressors can just seem like the biggest end of the world when you don't have enough cortisol. So cortisol is very important. The other thing that adrenal glands do is that they produce sex hormones. So that's important for us, especially as men and women who are in strong marriages. We want to make sure that our sex hormones get the love so that we can continue to, share that intimacy with our partners. I'm sure you've also suspected that an adrenal gland also produces adrenaline. And adrenaline is really what our liver needs to turn protein into glucose really fast. That gives the brain more energy. So I know adrenaline usually gets associated with like a high pressure, high stress situation, but it's actually produced all day long. And it helps our liver to do its job and start, moving some of that protein into quick energy, and it's healthy for our brains. Adrenals, the adrenal glands, love B vitamins. Love, love, love them. Young Living makes a vitamin, it's called Super B, and it's really supportive toward the adrenal glands. You can also use essential oils such as clove and nutmeg. And the clove and nutmeg is what I would suggest that you apply to your adrenal reflexology points on your feet. So this is, I want to make sure that I'm showing you this picture. Let me make sure you can see this. Okay. Okay. Get it. Hopefully you can kind of see that. Sorry, it's black and white. I'm doing the best I can here with my resources. So what I want you to do is mentally draw a line straight underneath the ball of your big toe. That's your tendon line. Your tendon will pop out when you point your toe toward your chin. You can apply 3 drops of clove and 3 drops of nutmeg oil to both of your feet on the adrenal reflexology points. You actually have 2 adrenal glands that are in your back that are on top of your kidneys. So that's where your reflexology point is in the foot as well. So our feet are actually, they mimic the layout of our body like identically. So you can find it kind of in the middle of your foot, more like, I would say like close to the curvature of your foot, because the curvature is really like where your spine is. So your adrenals would be where your kidneys are in your back, or like right above your kidneys. You can also apply deep thumb pressure to this point for like 1 to 2 minutes. You'll start to notice after a few minutes and just some like deep breathing that your breath will actually deepen. Your overall tension will start to loosen, and you'll really start to feel more relaxed. So if you're really feeling stressed, put some pressure on your adrenal reflexology points, rub some oils in there, let them do their job, and it'll actually help you to feel like you can tackle more as well. You may have noticed in the picture, and I don't know, I know the picture is kind of, it was dark and blurry, but you may have noticed that on the top of the foot, so like right underneath where the toes are, right here, underneath the toes, there is your solar plexus reflexology point. And you can actually apply oils to that spot on your foot, and you're going to get the same results. This particular point on your foot, right beneath your toes, likes Eucalyptus globalis. I can never say that word. I'm terrible at pronouncing words. If you ever watch any of my videos, you're going to be like, wow, she said that word wrong. It just, my tongue gets tied and I can't say certain words. It is what it is. That's why I valor up and I just say, you know what, judgment come befall me, because I got my valor on, and who cares? We're all human. No one's perfect. But anyway, that particular point on your foot, it likes the eucalyptus G. That's what I usually call it, because there's different types of eucalyptus oils out there, and juniper. So eucalyptus G and juniper you can rub on your solar plexus. That will help to wake your solar plexus up. Gives you kind of some of that energy. You can also try adding Vivator or helichrysum to help calm it down or wind it down. If you feel like your body is on overload, maybe you're bloated, maybe you're retaining water, like that kind of overload, like toxic overload, you can rub grapefruit and lemon oils. That's very balancing and very cleansing when you put that on your solar plexus. If you fold your foot in half, it will make a line. That's really the easiest way to help find your solar plexus. So like curl your toes, fold your foot. That's how you can find your solar plexus reflexology point. The solar plexus is actually a tight network of nerves, and it's at the bottom of your rib cage. Those nerves run from the bottom of your rib cage all the way down to your feet. So when you're tight there, a lot of the time you'll feel it in your diaphragm. Your diaphragm will feel really tight as well. This is really the area of the body that represents our power center. So it's really good to keep that feeling open and loose, because that's the spot in our body where we actually tend to see ourselves or how we feel about ourselves. So, you know, when I'm feeling really confident, you know, like my shoulders are back and my diaphragm is open and I'm breathing and there's not a lot of tension. But if I'm really feeling down or stressed or like I'm not good enough or I failed, you know, what happens? Like I start to slump together and like my shoulders droop, and then I start to feel really tense. I always like to say like I feel tense in my gut, but it's really like the bottom part of my rib cage, and that's where you're carrying that. So so it's really important that we keep our solar plexus open and strong. If you need some relief, I would say for quick relief, you can use the reflexology protocol. If you are feeling like there's some more serious adrenal assistance needed, that's when I would say really focus in on your diet, really focus in on cleansing, but feed your adrenals daily with your Super B, your Megagize, and your mineral essence. Those are 3 of the supplements I would suggest for that. You can also continue to apply your clove, your nutmeg, Endoflex, and then there's a blend called Energy, like ENER-GEE, Energy. I would apply those oils to the reflexology points for your adrenals that are on your feet. I usually advise don't putting them like directly over the glands themselves, which are on your back. And that's just because that's a sensitive area of skin and your feet are a lot tougher. And those little bottles of oils are highly potent. So, so using them directly can sometimes not feel the best. But if you've done it and you feel good, like, you know, you can definitely put them there, but I would suggest starting with your feet just to give it a try. Okay, so up to this point, we've covered the major glands of your endocrine system. So let's shift gears a little bit. I want to talk about your hormones. So your hormones, oh gosh, I could talk for hours on hormones. Your hormones are created in your glands. So your glands actually release estrogen and progesterone and then testosterone. We're gonna hone in really quick on estrogen and progesterone though. So progesterone takes control if your ovaries release an egg. So obviously talking to females here. When and if your ovary releases an egg, it's going to essentially feed your egg. So the egg gets released from the ovary. Its main goal is to make it to a fallopian tube and get fertilized. And if it's fertilized, you know, now you have a baby, and then it wants to travel to your uterus and it wants to embed in your uterine wall, which is great. If it doesn't get fertilized though, you know, that's when it'll travel to your uterus. The uterus recognizes that it's not going to be having a baby. So that is when you start to shed and your period starts. But the whole point of progesterone is to keep that egg strong and vital until it reaches the fallopian tube and until it can be fertilized. So it wants to give it nutrients. And so that's what your progesterone is doing. It's actually feeding the egg with nutrients to keep it alive and well until it gets to the fallopian tube. It also helps your uterine wall to thicken. So if you are trying for a baby, you want a nice thick uterus. And I'm sure if you've struggled at all to have a baby, or if you've gotten pregnant and then gone in and had an ultrasound done, they look at your uterine lining. They want to see how thick it is. And if you're trying to have a baby, progesterone is going to help that fertilized egg to attach to the uterus, and it's also going to help thicken your uterus. So it gives that egg a nice, like, squishy, comfy spot that it can land and then burrow into. Like, it literally just burrows right in. So that way it gets nice and cozy for the next 9 months. And that's why, too, women who get pregnant can sometimes have a little bit of spotting before they even know that they're pregnant, and sometimes at the early part of pregnancy, because that fertilized egg has burrowed in nice and deep to that uterine wall, and it actually causes a little bit of bleeding. Sorry, went off track there a little bit. Progesterone, it's a neurosteroid. and it gets produced in your reproductive system and in your neurological system. So it really impacts the ability for our nerves to carry signals. If progesterone is not present, estrogen will take over, and then that inhibits the chemical process, and it can also mess with our neurological system. So if it sits there like that long enough, it can actually cause cells to mutate. So if our progesterone is like non-existent, or if it's really low, it can cause our cells to mutate, and then it can really cause some serious things such as cancer. So progesterone and estrogen really have to work together. They are the dynamic duo of a female's body. Estrogen feminizes the body. So technically, both men and women have estrogen. That is, that's one of the hormones that we share, along with testosterone. And the whole purpose of it is to help feminize the body. So females carry more of it because, you know, we're supposed to be more feminine. It's just the way that our bodies were made. So it's really, really critical for us to help our bodies function in the way that they need to. It's really has a special role in our sexual and reproductive health. It maintains our skin. So that's why, you know, women tend to have very soft, very supple skin, and men tend to have, I think, more dry skin. It's because we have more estrogen than they do. It also supports our blood vessels, which is really important, especially, you know, when you think about the reproductive system and all of the blood that needs to go to our uterus and to our reproductive organs, because blood brings oxygen and nutrients. So we want to nourish those pieces of our body. Estrogen actually plays a part into our bone health. So if you have any bone issues, you can actually look into whether or not your estrogen is low. And it also aids in memory. So if you feel like you have memory issues, or maybe things are just foggy, that could be a sign that your estrogen is off. On the flip side, if estrogen is imbalanced, it can really lead to some problems for us. And I think they're pretty common problems for women. So we might brush it off as though it's nothing, but it's something to pay attention to. So if you have increased fat storage, if you have fluid retention, you have dry skin, severe premenstrual or menopausal symptoms, irregular menstruation, low sex drive, fatigue, mood changes, sleeping problems. All of that can be because your estrogen is too low or too high. We get imbalances with that, and we start to see a whole slew of side effects. The scary part is that the majority of these symptoms that I've been talking about for both progesterone and estrogen imbalances are pretty common for women. And I think for most of us, we've just decided that it's normal. That's what every woman goes through. And the reality of it is that it's not normal. None of it is normal. We have just been exposed. What's normal is our environments, because now our environments normally are so full of toxic chemicals. The beauty products that we use are so full of toxic chemicals that our bodies have adapted, and most of us are on toxic overload. And, you know, like from our products, from our environment, from our diets, we're on toxic overload. And so these symptoms appear in the majority. So it feels like it's normal, but the reality is that the majority of women are really struggling with hormone imbalances. And then the scary part about it is that it can lead to cancer. And I know so many people who have cancer. We've seen a huge rise in uterine cancer, breast cancer. You know, those are some pretty big risks, and we can start to pick up on it when we're teenagers, when we're in our 20s, when we're in our 30s. Like, we can start to pay attention to it. And these, you know, normalcies of our cycles, which really aren't normal, are actually pre-indicators that our hormones are off and that our cells could be mutating. So again, like, not staking any claims here for Young Living, but they do make some products that can help to balance the hormones. I'm not saying that this is the gold nugget, but there is a product or multiple products that you can try to help balance them, because you want to make sure that your progesterone and your estrogen, one is not more dominant than the other. I'm going to talk a little bit more about products here in a little bit. So I'm not going to get into all of those just yet. But what I would say to you, just as a quick pro tip, hormone testing can legit be like finding a needle in a haystack. 15 hormones that are out of whack this month may be normal next month. And then a whole new onset of hormones could be offset later. So it really is hard to nail it down to one issue. What you can do is do continuous testing from month to month to see if you start to notice any trends. But at the very least, if you get your testing done, you can at least see what your estrogen and progesterone levels are, and then start to supplement there. And like I said before, focus on diet as well. That's super important. Hey, Whit, sorry, I didn't see you come in. How are you? Okay, so we are going to chat about hormone disruptors. The first thing that we're going to chat about are the xenoestrogens. We've chatted a little bit. If you've been on any of my other talks, especially if you're in my Facebook group, we've talked a little bit about xenoestrogens, but they can really throw your hormones out of whack. So xenoestrogens are essentially estrogen mimicking compounds. So they're synthetic. It's a type of hormone disruptor, and they are everywhere, like literally everywhere. You can find them in food additives, insecticides, weed killers, plastics. So many of our products are in plastic casings, shampoos, in your cosmetic products. So think like facial care, makeup, etc. Can also be found in detergents. So all of our soaps and laundry soap and things like that. It can also be found in the linings of food that we have. And then if you drink beverages out of cans. So I'm not being a good example today as I drink my bubbly straight from my aluminum can, but they are there. And then they are legit fed to the cows that we eat. So when it's processed, those xenoestrogens are in the meat, and we then absorb it into our bodies. So while we're on the topic of hormone disruptors, there is a big elephant in the room that nobody seems to talk about. I didn't even think about it until probably 2 years ago when somebody pointed it out to me, and that is our feminine products. So all of the feminine products that we are using during our cycle, make sure that you look for products that are chlorine free and have no synthetic pesticides, dyes, or fragrances. Some of my favorite brands are the L brand, Vita, Natricare, and it's called Organic. It's ORGANYC, organic. Personally, I would be very cautious about the 7th generation OB Organics or the Honest company. Those are owned by Coca-Cola, and I could go down an entire shoot of pedestal, or standing on my pedestal, talking about some of the issues of Coca-Cola. So I would just really encourage you, like, do your research before you purchase a brand. Don't just trust the label just because it says organic, because those claims are not always true. All of the pollutants and toxins that we get exposed to then start to accumulate in our tissues. So think your breast tissue, your thyroid, your your ovaries, and your uterus. Some of that can really start to imitate your natural hormones. And when that happens, your hormone receptors start to overstimulate, and that can increase the risk of cancers, your risk of cancer for like breast cancer, uterine cancer. And then of course there's other disorders and diseases that we can deal with, but those are probably the most serious ones. How do you know if your hormones are off? Well, like I said, most women are I would say, you know, that it's very common, and there's a lot of symptoms or side effects that we feel that just seem normal, but they're really not. There is a book, it's called Taming the Dragon, and it's written by David and Leanne Dearduff. So it's a husband and wife duo. And in that book, she gives a really comprehensive list of signs that show that your hormones are off. So these are signs that you have either a progesterone or an estrogen dominance. The first being tender breasts, mood swings, water retention, weepiness. If you have trouble getting going in the morning, even after 9+ hours of sleep, that is me. Clinical headaches or migraines. I can't tell you how many women I know that deal with that, not just during their cycle. Low libido, irritability or being quick to anger, anxiety, uterine fibroids, puffiness or bloating. I mean, hello, that happens to me almost every month. If your bleeding changes, if you have a cold body temperature, that's another thing that I just realized I deal with. I mean, I'm not like cold, but my normal, like not having a fever is like, I don't know, 97.2. Although they did say that they lowered the 98.6 norm. But is it norm? Or is that just like they're starting to see the average is falling because our hormones are off? Who knows? Cystic ovaries or polycystic ovaries. That was something I suffered from. Vaginitis or vaginal infections. If you have a dry vagina or very little mucus. Uterine or endometrial cancer. If you have fungal infections. If you tend to have heavy menses. Breast cancer, obviously. Sleep disturbances. If you have sugar cravings or if you are someone who feels angry all the time. Again, that's something that I have suffered from in the past. If you need caffeine to get going in the morning and then again in the mid-afternoon, that can actually be a sign that your hormones are off. We just think that we're tired because we have kids and don't sleep, and therefore we need coffee all the time. But the truth is that your hormones are probably off. Elevated, I'm going to say this word wrong, but we already talked about how I can't say words. So triglycerides or triglycerides, I can't say the words. But if they are elevated, that is a sign that your hormones are off. Infertility, leaky bladder, tingling of your hands and feet, tinnitus, fibromyalgia, digestion problems, and low blood sugar. So obviously not an entire full list, but a pretty comprehensive list that she talks about in her book. So before I jump into like products of what can help us to regulate our hormones, I think that it's really important to also talk through cleansing. So if you have these symptoms, you might consider doing a full colon, liver, and kidney cleanse. There is something called, what is it called? Colon hydrotherapy. And then they also make coffee enemas. Yeah, I have a lot of these too. Like, it's eye-opening to think about, like, whoa. And like I said before, most of us women, like, these are common to us. Like, these are things that we talk to our friends. Oh, I know, you know, da 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 da. Me too. And then it kind of becomes group therapy, and you think, oh, well, everybody else feels this way. This is normal. It's not normal. So think about cleansing your colon, your liver, and your kidneys. Young Living does make a 3-pack. It's called the Cleansing Trio. And it's actually really, really good for your colon and for your liver. And then make sure that you're supplementing your glands. So we talked earlier about your thyroid, adrenal, and pituitary gland and some of the supplements that can support that. So make sure that you are supplementing and feeding your glands. Okay, so let's talk about balancing the hormones and how we can do that. Cleansing, I think, is the first step. The second step then is to focus on diet and really trying to avoid any synthetic hormones. So if you can, try to look for meat that has no added hormones to it. Grass-fed beef is really important instead of grain-fed, because the grains typically have a lot of chemicals and added hormones and things that can throw you off. Wild-caught fish instead of farm-fresh fish. Yeah, just like really focus in on that. Honestly, you guys, at first that sounded really scary to me, and it sounded like I was going to spend a ton of money. We have a store here in Milwaukee. It's called Meijer. I would consider it similar to like oh, why can't I think of the name of that store in the South? Publix, or back in the Quad Cities where I'm from, like a Hy-Vee. It's a good store. It's very comprehensive, but their brand, like their Meijer brand of chicken, is hormone free and cage free. And so I will buy chicken breasts, and a lot of times they'll have sales for like $1.88 a pound for their chicken breasts. And then they are really good about sending coupons. So then I can get like an additional like $1 off of a package when they send me a coupon. So a lot of times I can get like 10 pounds of chicken and spend, you know, maybe $11 to $13. So be on the lookout, you know, check your local grocers. You can find the no hormone added chicken pretty easily, especially if you're in the like cooler section. I think it's a little bit harder to find in the freezer section. I know Purdue has switched the way that they've processed, and they're no longer adding hormones. But a lot of times in the frozen section, that's when, you know, you'll start to see some of those hormones added, because it helps with the freshness. So, okay, let's talk about balancing the hormones and some of the products that you can use. So the first is Progesterone Plus. This is what I would say is like the queen of monitoring your estrogen and your progesterone. One of the top products that I would recommend from Young Living's hormone balancing line. So this actually gives some endocrine support. It's a serum, and it's made with essential oils and wild yam extract. So notice I said it's a serum, and it's not an actual essential oil itself. It's just made up of essential oils. But it has different properties that will help to support women's natural cycles. If your body starts to slow down as you're aging, and it's slowing down and producing progesterone, I would say that this is a great product for you to use. I personally have been on synthetic progesterone products because my progesterone at one point was so low that even in using my natural supplements, I was still at like a 0.03, and it's supposed to be at like, well, prior to ovulation, it's supposed to be at like a 1.2, and it's eventually supposed to get all the way up like above a 10. And then if you get pregnant, it goes even higher. It can go into like the 40s. But mine was at like a 0.3. It was so low. So I've been on those before, but here's something that I have learned about those synthetic progesterone. So they're actually called progestins, which is the synthetic version. And the synthetic version, it's really bad because it can actually lead to life-threatening side effects. Cleveland Clinic has an entire warning page on hormone replacement therapy. And in their words, they state, while HT, hormone therapy, helps many women get through menopause, the treatment is not risk-free. Know the health risks included. Increased risk of endometrial cancer, increased risk of blood clots or stroke, increased chance of gallbladder, gallstone problems, increased risk of dementia, increased risk of heart disease, increased risk of breast cancer if it's used for 3 to 5 years or beyond. It can cause monthly bleeding, irregular spotting, breast tenderness, fluid retention, headaches, including migraines, skin discoloration, brown or black spots, and increased breast density. I can personally tell you that the side effects that I felt from using synthetic progesterone, really, I could feel it in my breasts. My breasts were incredibly tender. Every month that I used it, I swore up and down that I was pregnant because my boobs hurt so bad. My boobs were also very full. So I was convinced every single month that I used it that I was pregnant, because I felt pregnant, or the way that, I mean, I've never been pregnant, so I don't know, but I felt the way that people describe you feel when you get pregnant. So I can't say anything necessarily about blood clots or stroke. I do know that I definitely felt like there was migraines that came along with it, fluid retention, for sure. I always gained weight. As a matter of fact, I still feel like I'm trying to rebalance myself a little bit and to lose some of the weight. Anyway, it's just, it wasn't for me. And now I'm that's why I'm really focusing in on like my diet and my gut, because I think if I can clean that up, my hormones will actually start to regulate themselves. So I'm in a really like low place though. So if yours is just slightly off, or even like a little bit low, Progesterone Plus, it's really a great way to naturally support your endocrine system. I still use it every day. But I just, like I said in the beginning, there's no magic bullet. There's no, magic pill here that's going to fix things. So even though I know I'm supplementing my body, I know that there's other changes that I need to make. I can't just rely on the serum and call it a day. Another product that we have is called Femigen. So Femigen, it's a natural phytoestrogen supplement, and it supports female health with different benefits. It's got some vitamins in it, amino acids, essential oils, but it also will help to support your bone health. And that can be true for both men and women. And it also will help to support your brain, your mood, your heart, and your skin. So it's got a lot of the really good, like female loving essential oils into the blend. Some of that being Clary Sage. I talk a ton about Clary Sage. I love it. I use it every single day. It's got ylang ylang in it, which is another oil that loves to love on the female body. I actually put some of this on like right before we started. So I love ylang ylang. So Femigen, it comes in a pill form, super easy to take. Scarlescence, it's not a capsule. It is an essential oil. This is another one that I love. Scarlescence, Lady Scleral, and Clary Sage are three of my faves. I like to put them in into a veggie capsule and take them. I actually, if you were watching my Instagram stories today, I actually made a video showing that I was doing that. So this will actually help to manage your stress, and it's a natural romance enhancer. So if you're somebody who suffers from low libido, this might be something that you should consider applying topically or taking internally, because it can help love on your romance buttons. You can take it in a capsule. It does come in a vitality form, or you can put it over a cup of tea in a glass of water. You can apply it onto your reflexology points, which we talked about earlier, and you can also apply it topically to your belly. So those are the different ways you can use Scarlescence. Another oil, we talked about this one earlier when we were talking about your pituitary gland. That's Endoflex. So Endoflex is designed to support the entire endocrine system. There is a vitality version so that you can take it as a dietary supplement, but it is a blend of 6 different oils: geranium, spearmint, sage, myrtle, and nutmeg. I personally like to rub it on my throat. So I don't take it internally. I put a roller cap on the bottom, or like a roller top on the top of my bottle, and I just use it as like a roller bottle over my thyroid. It's best used if you do it twice a day. Prenylene Plus. This is a cream. Okay, so it's a little bit different than Progesterone Plus. Prenylene Plus, it's a cream that enhances low levels of the hormones, and it will actually help produce new levels of hormones. It's a steroid cream that can transform into various different types of hormones, like DHEA. So if you are low in DHEA, testosterone and estrogen. I would say we typically, as people, think about our hormones in different stages of life. So if we're going through puberty, obviously hormones tend to be out of whack. If you are pregnant, if you're going through menopause, like we really start to really hone in on our hormones during those stages of life. But the truth is that our hormones impact us minute by minute every single day, and they influence the health of our bodies. So rubbing a cream on you or a Prenylene cream that can transform into the various hormones that your body might need in that moment can be very beneficial. I mentioned earlier when we were talking about the hypothalamus gland that it's the main, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh my gosh, the main part, I guess, of the limbic system. It's in the center of your brain, so like right in here, down in the center. And it will respond to emotional stimuli. And then that is what it uses to regulate your endocrine system. So when you sniff an oil, your hypothalamus triggers like it ain't nobody's business. And that's exactly where it goes. So moment to moment, day by day, when your hormones are starting to feel out of whack, just picking up a bottle of essential oil and breathing it in, you can breathe it in straight out of the bottle. You can put it in your hands like I did at the beginning of this chat and cup your face and just take a couple of deep breaths. And that will actually start to stimulate your hypothalamus to start telling the other glands. Remember, it's like a phone tree. Hypothalamus comes first, and then it talks to the pituitary, which then talks to the thyroid, which then talks to your kidneys. It's a phone tree, so you want to stimulate your hypothalamus first to really get it going. This is a little bit of a side topic, and someday I'm going to do a chat about oils and emotions. That's another huge topic. But some places where your emotions get stored, and this is important because this will help you to determine where you need to apply your oils. Fear and worry get stored in your kidneys. So if you are going through a really stressful situation, and if you're very fearful or if you have a ton of worry, rub oils over your kidneys. Anger and rage get stored in the liver and in the gallbladder. Inner crying gets stored in your lungs and in your kidneys. Sadness is stored in your pancreas. Lack of joy is stored in your heart. Unforgiveness is stored in the liver. That kind of goes hand in hand with anger and rage. Like usually if you're angry, you're not forgiving somebody. Revenge is stored into the kidney and can actually lead to kidney stones. Stress is stored in the stomach. So if you want to work on some of these areas, I would recommend studying the feelings oils and the feelings class that Gary has. Like I said, one day we'll maybe, if these Wednesday chats continue to go well, I'll add one to the calendar so we can talk about feelings and the feelings kit. Okay, whew, lots of info. We've talked about Progesterone Plus, we talked about Femigen. Now I want to talk really quickly just about some oils that are specific to both, or specific to women and then specific to men, and some of the other supplements that we're missing. So Thyromin, I mentioned earlier, which is best to be taken at night. It helps to boost your metabolism, your energy, your body temperature, your calorie burning. So it's really, really good for bedtime because that's when your body rests and regenerates. So it loves on all of your glands to help your body regulate some of those big things. Cortisol, I think I mentioned this, or maybe, no, I didn't mention this. Cortisol, it's a hormone produced by the adrenal gland, or cortisol, I should say, is a hormone produced by the adrenal gland, and it responds to stress and low blood sugar. So I mentioned earlier that if your cortisol is too low, even the smallest little agitators can feel extremely stressful. So Young Living makes a supplement, it's called Cortistop, and it's a really good supplement that helps to support like natural balance in your body. So if you feel like your cortisol levels are too high or too low, Cortistop might be something that you should consider taking. Some female supporting oils that I always suggest. I mentioned Clary Sage. Clary Sage is really great for mood swings and for emotions. This one is actually one of my favorites because of the fact that it doesn't matter if your body needs estrogen or progesterone. Clary Sage just kind of jumps into action and says, I can do either. So if you are dominant in one or the other, or if you don't know which one you're dominant in, Clary Sage is really one of the best things that you can do. I like to actually just rub it directly over my abdomen. You could also put it in an Epsom salt bath. Dragon time is one that I've talked a lot about. This one, it was specifically named because of Red Week, or when you're on your period, you tend to be more bloated or crampy during that week. And Dragon time can help with some of those PMS symptoms. It can also help lift your mood. So that's one that I use regularly. Lady Sclerol. This is actually one that will help to relax you. It has jasmine, bergamot, geranium, orange, a couple more. But it's really a nice perfume. I know a lot of women who wear it as their perfume. But this is one that I would actually recommend for women who are probably 30 plus, 35 plus. It has been shown to help with a lot of the side effects of premenopause and menopause as well. There is an oil called Mister, which makes you think that it's for a guy, but it can actually help women with low sex drive. So if you start rubbing that on your ankles around like the mid part of the month, so it's like right after you ovulate, like usually we as women tend to feel a little bit more in the mood around when we're going to ovulate. And then after we ovulate, it's like, no thanks. So if you start rubbing it on around the time that you're going to ovulate through the end of your cycle, you'll actually start to notice a little bit more friskiness, because it can actually help to increase our testosterone, which drops pretty dramatically after we ovulate. So it is a good one for men if they have low testosterone, but it can also be used for women in that way. Okay, I think, because I'm running out of time here, I've got 3 minutes. So I'm just going to kind of run through the quick list of things for guys. Powergise is a supplement made for men. It increases the ability to concentrate, think clearly, stay awake, helps your body to cope with stress, feel more balanced. There is a supplement called Prostate Health. I think we all know what that one is for. There is, let's see, Goldenrod, one of our most favorite oils for men, because it is so great for the bedroom. It will help to support good circulation. So think about it. If you want him to have a goldenrod, then you need to get goldenrod. And yes, I stole that from Lucy Vito. Shutron, that is another one that we love. It has amazing pheromones in it that women are just naturally attracted to. And it doesn't have any estrogen mimicking compounds in it, unlike some of our colognes that men wear. So it's really safe for your woman to be breathing in. And then let's see, we've got Prenylene. Prenylene is a cream for either men or women that can help to balance the hormones. And Gary recommends that you use these creams right after your cycle, like right after you're done bleeding through when you would ovulate. And that can be true for both men and women. I just don't think that the men have to worry about the cycle part of it. All right, with our last few minutes, because there's just so many things, I want to talk just quick about some of the trouble areas that we've had. And I will send these out in a follow-up email to you. But there's some recipes I think you should be aware of things that you can try. There is Gary's hormone support recipe. So if you have low hormones, this would be a good one for you to try. It's 10 drops of basil, 10 drops of marjoram, 8 drops of hyssop, 4 drops of helichrysum, and 6 drops of ylang ylang. You apply it to the crown of your head and the forehead at the same time, and then apply it to your groin and across your lower back. I have got one for cramping. I'm not going to read through all of this because I'll send it out in an email. I've got something for irregular periods. I've got something for migraines when it accompanies the period. So if you're interested in any of those, make sure that you comment and I will make sure to get that to you right away. So yeah, tons of information that I know that we went through tonight. I'd be happy to get into more detail. Like I said at the beginning, I could talk hormones, oh my God, for hours because I've literally been trying to figure mine out for 4 to 5 years. And I'm still a work in progress, guys. Like I'm not sitting here claiming to be a doctor and I don't have all of the answers, but I certainly have figured a few things out that I think are really important. And it's just a great place for you guys to start. So thanks, Whitney. I really appreciate you hopping on. If you guys have any additional questions that you'd like me to answer, make sure that you comment so that way I know. And then maybe the next time that we all get together, I can be sure to incorporate those into the video as well. So have a great night and I will talk to you next week.